Are the judges good?
Yeah.
Yeah. Judges all good?
Yeah.
Are you good? Part 1 is the framework. The role of the judges see pro-critical thinking. They have an obligation to break down oppressive biases, status correctors, use violence to smother critical fault-solving and pressure requires the judge make debate in space for challenging social norms. Juror 1. 10 democratic facts has reached a breaking point. Total state violence smother critical thoughts. In the United States, power has come to the hands of relatively few people. States has become the corporate state ideologies, has replaced by command, certainly backed by militarization, ethical ignorance shaped by the agency, devolves into anti-intellectual foolishness. Education crucial overcome the crisis. Education students must reclaim education of agency. The role of the ballot is to endorse the more productive liberation strategy for the oppressed practice strategies, create actual change, not theorize that realizing liberation requires bottom-up strategy. People must confront and adjust themselves, not wait for others to act for them. Sharp. Our real self-reliant and question requires the current system, also liberation, also a critical system. The objective is to promote greater freedoms to help people develop their knowledge so they can become capable self-reliantly. A greater strategy for conflict. Part 2 is kept on the inside. Campus speech, under attack, air Trump, demagogue, insight, instead make people sit down and shut up. They keep students ignorant, they never question the practices. Amari. What about convention, ideological commitment, self-interest to police student behaviors, intervening student belief, Delaware orientation freshman, every student's action, unknown administrative really change things, trouble is students are into this mission, or bored about the grades to fight back, and any speech restriction spillover effect, which silences dissent. Strawson 1. Inescapable any speech regulation will chill speech, members in verse and the side of caution for being charged, rule of Wisconsin plan to have this effect, Wisconsin precedent, restricting other speech as well, any campus speech policy never really applied to fraction expressions and is undermining the First Amendment's moral legitimacy, and the speech code George Springfield aims to help empiric show speech codes are primarily enforced against minorities. ACLU 1. Codes proving counterproductive, all power speech affected, rest with authorities, not with victims of hate speech, in Britain, racially stacked optimistic, outraged informations, persecuted activists of color, while race will punish Michigan, white students in 20 cases for black students, offensive speech, and the for me, but not for the approach, backfires and mobilizing the alt-right, they're rampant in the status quo. Carl. The alt-right with nativist, white national masculinist, the alt-right learned on university campuses, of American and warning race in classes, calls for free speech, alt-right would not again put it on their culture, what is grades punish racism, meaningless concept, in 2010 faculty found 16% of faculty strongly supported on pop music campuses, witch hunts against academics, are routine in college campuses, feminist progressive minorities gazing through your classmates causing progressive disaster, and this dooms alternatives to the status quo failure, speech codes guarantee a militarized crackdown against all who dissent, Godrej. Neoliberal logic of the university entwined with militarization and criminalization dissent, a militarized red force strategy, realizing you to engage in legitimate violence against dissenters, it is able to cast this and theological criminal ensuring that the price of dissent is time to discourage any dissent, thus the advocacy. Public colleges and universities in the United States ought not restrict any constitution protected speech. Kurtz. College universal policy free expression that defines intellectual freedom as the primary goal of university. Court rejects proposition members being entitled to suppress speech they find offensive. New statements free expression replace this in codes. Part 3 is fighting, let the words fall out. Deregulating campus speech protects protesters and ensures valuable legal precedents. The ACLU 2. Laws and free speech defend protests fighting for justice. In Sherman, Yellow Beach, Chicago, AC defended. Precedent became citizens in the 1960s. Defending for enemies, defending for you and me as well. And only open dialogue people demand liberation for themselves. Ensuring a radical democracy in colleges, DebateDrills. Schools individually think clearly themselves, demand their rights, and choose their own path, a dialogical theory of education, a community question which equality, political safety for emerging citizens, a de-centered classroom where students engage in discussion, direct question, encourage students to speak their minds and experiment with their thoughts, and speech codes to mobilize action by driving oppressive thought underground. Strawson 2. Any speech regulation only affect motivates racism, more subtle forms go on survive, sensitive will cause race not no grounds to respond to, the British confirmed 6th prediction, the positive effect of racist speech turns mobilizing opposition to racism are illustrated by campus incidents, expressions chilled by university sanctions, they're thoughtful there would have been wise discussion on campuses, and free speech is students learning themselves to reject oppressive views. Leonard. Professor William Shockley theories black tells whites for a lace curtain plan for genocide. In faith in Shockley and Genesis, Nicholas Shockley amateur and said, winning against race, confronting the truth. Shockley's response to scientific error, not racist affect. Weekend of students' private opportunity for a clash of ideas, understand their ideas better, even wrong ideas, beneficial effect, and free speech is key to liberation activism. It's the only way to ever ensure we change minds. Puzder. No better place to be the campus squad student activists not standing with powers them to promote diversity and quad core of every civil rights struggle that denies and withholds certain rights of free speech. Students so lost touch with free speech being obstacle to university ministry, upfront buses journalism away from public event. You don't change positive speaking there is decidedly free the general respect for open thought. Otherwise, our campus of vast conformity, rather learning discussion must have always still freedom to do so. And speech codes are ineffective at solving hate speech. ACE points psychological evidence and written show regulations backlash. Strawson 3. No persuasive psychological evidence punishing changes attitudes. Become more appealing and persuasive by virtue of their censorship nor is there empirical evidence that science effective right rate of information. According to later neo-Nazi notice for effect neo-Nazi groups, even mission speech goes unpunished. Beast the point they glorify press speakers causing martyrdom. Strawson 4. Sense of effective race secret efforts suppression results in getting more publicity what not of achievement against governments. They appear as martyrs heroes, suppressing public interest. Part 4 is the interview. One vague alternative to implicit material violence, so material focus comes first. Cone 10. The world's where human slave where laws passed against precedent where black people live, try more room to breathe. The world's not a metaphysical problem, ontological problem. It is very concrete, being kicked by police. It is where brutal reality makes appearance. Second, liberation requires specificity and justice, even if ideology generally bad. Particular case key to solve Papa 16 theory starting points. Adjust what seems on decided absurdity is we must treat the particular situation on a global social pathology, white and colonialism. American justice, a unique situation, covert cause domination vary case by case. There is no one single causal explanation. Skip the third and fourth parts in the interview.
Is everybody good?
Yes, I'm good.
Okay, everybody good?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's start on the Pappas card. What is the implication? Is it just like no root causes?
Several arguments. It's no root causes, but also says that it's an epistemic claim. The way we derive knowledge varies case by case. So when we see injustice, for example, take a concept like anti-blackness.
Okay,
there is people experience it differently.
Can we talk about the
Sure.
what is it? The Strawson card or the
Which
Puzzler?
one?
The Puzzler card.
Sure,
Actually.
Puzzler
card.
Sure.
Okay, so a white guy rolls up onto campus, starts bringing a cross. How do I change his mind through like a productive dialogue?
Sure, it's not a question of changing their minds per se. Rather,
Okay,
it's
so
about
your card literally talks about
Connor,
changing
you didn't let me
minds.
answer your question.
Okay.
The argument is that the only way to ever get real change is to allow protest and activism.
Okay,
In the
how does
status
this
quo,
change occur
people, gives the example of civil rights movement. People spoke out on campus and overall got real solutions.
Your cards talk about literally changing the minds of racists. I want to know why
that is not
form.
the argument is not about changing the minds of racists per se, but rather.
So your card beforehand, free speech is key to students to learn to reject oppressive
Yes,
views.
it is
The
not.
other
The
card
argument
talks
is not that
about-
we change the minds of racists. Obviously, people always say messed up things. The argument is that the way to confront racism and ensure people don't develop the views themselves is to
Now, no,
hear
how many
ideas.
students were deprived of opportunity to see the clash of ideas and walk away with a better understanding of their beliefs.
Yes,
Your
this gives
key
an
to fighting
empirical-
racism is to have racists better
No, that is not
understand
the
your
argument.
views.
Let me explain the evidence.
I'm just
Connor.
saying your
The
evidence
argument-
doesn't say like what you're magnifying it to say.
No, I
wanna know why
assure you it does.
having
You
a
didn't let-
dialogue-
I assure you it does. It gives the example of William Shockley, a professor at Stanford. He had very racist views, but instead of suppressing them and saying, no, you can't speak, what they did instead was they discussed the ideas openly, and people saw for themselves how stupid and racist he was. So they learned to reject oppression
So
themselves.
did other racists see this and say, "Oh wow, racism is stupid," or did other liberals see this and say, "Yeah"?
No,
I
what
already
happened
believe
was
racism is stupid,
other
that's
people
obvious."
who might have been racist later on, or might have developed these viewpoints, saw how stupid it was
Okay,
and changed.
so let's talk about the actual movements on campuses, or rather, can you give me an example of a time in which a speech code has been used against like an oppressed group?
Yeah, I
to
can give you
silence
20
them?
examples actually. ACLU 1 says that in Michigan, it was enforced against minorities in 20 different instances to suppress
What
their
were those
speech.
instances? So this is
so
one,
what
like,
happened
this is
was-
a specific area. I
Sure,
wanna
I'll
know
give
what
you
instances
a
those
specific example. A black law student was charged by a black law student refers to a white law student as this happened.
Wait, so this, by the way,
I'm giving you
just to cut you off for a second, this
Sure.
like evidence specifies in part of it the Racial Relations Acts adopted in 1965
in
of
Britain,
race.
but the next line discusses
Yeah.
Michigan. So what happened was there was a black student who referred to a white student as white trash, and then the speech code was enforced only against him.
What
But
happened to that black student?
He was forced to write a letter of apology to
How
a white
does that
student
demobilize black movements?
because the people were forced to be humiliated.
Wait,
by
so
having
him
to,
having to write like a stupid letter to the administration caused an entire
yes,
movement
causing someone to be
fail?
socially
So Black Lives
stigmatized.
Matter is as powerful as like a single letter to the editor.
No, that is not the argument. The argument is that when people are humiliated and afraid to speak out, then we demobilize movements.
Do you think that made that guy afraid and humiliated, or just like?
I think having
catalyzed
to,
broader
I think having
effect, like,
to,
force him
I
try
think
and
having
do
to
something better
apologize
next
to a
time?
racist in front of classmates would demobilize someone's actions. Yes.
No prep. I'll just flash it. Okay, or I guess I'll try and email it. I think I might have connection.
Sure. Sounds good. Wait, Raffi, you ever?
What is bad?
Oh, what?
Did you send the app to me via email?
Yeah, I don't think it went through. So I just flashed it.
Oh, it didn't go through the first time?
No, it didn't.
Okay, so I have to start a chain then.
You can just flash it. That might be easier. Whatever you want.
It's fine. Does anyone want to be on the chain?
Yeah, well, I mean, it doesn't really matter. I don't have Wi-Fi, so.
Yeah, I don't have your email really. Okay, everyone put in their email that wants to be on the chain. Connection subsists.
So my internet wasn't working before, but after the debate, I can just or I can forward you the doc now if it's working. Would you like me to try to do that?
Oh, is your internet still not working? Do I also?
I'm not sure. I'll double check.
Yeah. It's kind of...
Yeah, the internet is rough.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think it just said technical error. Email did not send.
Yeah,
but it shows that I have the connection now, so it'll probably work. Yeah. Sorry, it took a while to send the docs before. Oh, I was just saying sorry it took a while before when I was trying to send the app.
Dude, you're good. Just wish there was a faster, more efficient way.
Yeah.
Pocketbox, dude.
But if there's no internet.
I'm joking.
Pocketbox is
yeah, I
pretty
should have
awesome.
said. Tell me if you need me to flash it.
Check again. Oh, yep, got it.
You got it. Okay.
I'm not reading that news.
The order's going to be 2 off case.
2 off? Okay.
Is everybody good?
As soon as the document loads, I'll be sure. It's not loaded. You know what, can you just
Yeah,
flash
yeah,
it? Yeah, sorry, it's just not loading. Also, on case, where are you starting?
Top down. Should be HW round robin quarters NC copy.
This?
Should be the one you see.
Oh, I don't think you see. I hate technology.
Okay. It should say.
Okay. Great. 22.
There it is.
Oh, awesome. Okay, I'm good when you are.
Alright. First off is the K. Rhetoric propagating free speech. The answer to social is directly trace off of the ability to fight injustice. Free speech is a tool that cards wield in colorblind ways against people. Galvan is defined 92. Free speech and peace racial reform. They encourage creative people and non-responsible way they give the black man of the Asian to our second more creative surveillance that stock characters when groups tend to use free speech as an instrument for war courts consume First Amendment doctrine against civil rights activists. The greatest rights to the finest of the First Amendment. The march distribute leaflets or convention current First Amendment law. So when good examination of exception just close to the majority favor and the powerful one says disparaging of both the individual one discovers words are not free. One speaks disrespectfully of a judge, police officer, teacher, military, or a powerful authority who discovers words are not free. If it's seriously made except to protect vulnerable members of society, isolated young black undergraduates standing on campuses, mental concentration free expression is craft left effect apologetic functionally groups use the marketplace by distress by their superior positions and images describe negative images more on persons minority internalized worries and they can demoralize themselves and not speak at the expense of speech precludes stigmatized for participating in marketplace by society doesn't really want them to speak effectively and can visualize them doing so, get the card there and more speech is not better, tends to reinscribe power relations rather than break them down. The God 94 and speech offenders argue the minority should not talk back to the issue, talk back to the aggressor. Racism they hold as the product of ignorance of a victim has time to explain the basic seed and altering the speaker's perception and the nature of paternalism that make the argument in their decision to power. They believe themselves able to make things by asserting them as true. They rarely offer empirical proof of their claims because the social world, as they say, is their world. They create it in the way that those who are racial upsets do so because they feel empowered to do so. The principal objective is to reinscribe your speech is rarely a mistake, something more than correcting your counter by discussion. The idea that you're talking back as safe or potentially educated does not correspond with reality. Ignores the power dimensions of racist remarks, forces minorities to run very real risk to treat a hateful attempt to force them outside of a human community as an invitation for discussion when successful talking back is a burden and turns the case hate speech as real violence of people of color necessary locks in a relationship of domination with God of Stephanico 9. Hate speech taking number forms can isolate an individual group incidents of the kind of most problematic harm associated includes the psychological harm, suppression, anger, diminishing self-concept, impairment, born, summoning, refuge, in addition, combated, misery, and the connection between hate speech and mass suppression may not be contingent, but is necessary. The prime mechanism for creation of stigmatized hate speech within genocide, imperialism, and Indian removal and improving little person, the individual who holds a crime may be momentarily irritated, building up, seems to non-inflict serious damage, ubiquitous, suppresses sentiment, allowed is more dangerous. The incident revs him up, gives onlookers the impression that being minorities is socially acceptable, so many they follow suit. Also controls the internal link to the app because psychological bonds demobilizes movements, even if speech can be used against movements or impact outweighs on cyclicality because violence becomes internalized. Additionally, it means that any use of hate speech on campuses motivates other racists to join suit, which means to strengthen anti-racist movements against anti-racial ones, and anti-blackness is a root cause of white supremacy and social oppression outweighs the case hates of routine. Black has been a literal figure and counterpart of white and the very foundation of white supremacy to search to delineate whiteness as unrace while hierarchy devaluing other racial and categories. Blackness always seen in the antithesis of question slavery was the center of debates in racial USC enters the black sacrifice of the nation. Whiteness is property produced the value of those who possess it built on the exclusion of racial subjugation. Blackness is defined as the margin of humanity. Alternative is to embrace the debate of abolitionism. We must recognize that whiteness operates solely through its policies of the status quo. We choose to challenge the diversity system in a grassroots intersection with other liberation movements. Over 14. Knowledge is commodity market books, articles, and federations, full of patents, governing conscious, the production, better knowledge cannot be co-opted. Abolition, context, and for prisons, study only the abolitioning. Prisons will imagine the possibility of less found strategies, abolition, claims, also finish economic basis of academic, MSCIC. This interrogation of universities and colleges, investment decisions, to prison industry systems, and military cooperation, Southeast Asia, and Middle East investment instead of community-led sustainable economic development. We, given the popular anti-racist democratization of higher education is necessary for white people to make whiteness impossible by refusing benefits of membership, medicine, investment, and time and resources, decarcerate the nation's citizens, or anti-tension, undocumented immigrants, the role of the values to mitigate the ass, scholarship beings in lines of critical race theory makes a passage to the planet irrelevant. It is about your representations and to focus on political action assumes a kind of democratic liberalism and inaccessible to marginalized voices refuse the demand for concrete state action. Lopez 03. Tax and privilege in the field of emergent belief never have process strategies to describe the fact that underrepresented groups psychology participating these kind of political activity they fail to justify certain individuals' faith to fail together why the American process itself marginalizes the concept of rights as elusive. If having rights as being an American, then racial minorities in the US are far from fully incorporated. Just all individuals act politically in certain ways is disingenuous. Dissat. 10-line investigations are increasing. K-Gates is key. Growing 10-line investigations at how 300 10-line investigations for sexual harassment and 315 educational institutions face public scrutiny because 10-line investigations have been highlighted in increases. Investigations are a crucial way to hold schools accountable. Breaker 12. 10-line remains a crucial tool to take a harsher line of rape and sexual violence in schools to crack down the slew of 10-line complaints seeking to reform the Princeton, Duke, U of A, and Harvard and Yale. The House universities to place misogyny seriously and create a better recourse for victims. And classifying crimes of discrimination turns out to be effective. Hold institutions accountable enough. Guts effectiveness of 10-line creates First Amendment opportunities and shower 4. First Amendment math ensures claims about rising isolation. There will be multiple lawyers, litigants, and actors who perceive virtues, opportunities, strategies, well, proliferation for First Amendment surrounding the computer source code, copyright, the multiplicity of students claiming cascading effects, seriously plausible claims to make these individual impossible claims more credible. The multiplicity of not plausible claims gives the action of traction, and sexual harassment in classrooms as a result of patriarchal violence that invades academia. Sexual harassment represents an oppressive view of power by professors' skilled participation in the of the harassment in Thompson 82. Widespread authority relations, sexual interest, and gender stratification to define sexual harassment. This nexus of power, the formal authority of men can engage in diverse behaviors would be rebuffed with the relationship, not one superior and subordinate students are supposedly evaluated according to merit. Teachers will permit about that degree of interaction, helpfulness, are analysis of sexual harassment, and the nexus of power implies male instructors manipulate interest authority, which undermine women. Case. Overview to your role of the ballot. There is no reason why you were a bottom-up strategy. Rather, use the state and ergo public institutions as your advocate. Meaning you are definitely a top-down strategy that utilizes the state in some way. In fact, the alternative is a much better conceptualization of this because it starts to make grassroots movement. Don't let it make sense references to why is this, but the case proper 1 fighting free speech with speech obscures material violence that students of color face. Carpenter 16. White people direct conversations about racism and interpret themselves on race-based stresses. Explains by the scientific they can be more present than strangulation or garnered by fertility. It weighs minimal discomfort against literal deafening features of violence and the incitement of further violence. Words are coming at the extended conscious of white supremacy. Racist, painful, and murder can only be of one degree. And the idea that we need more deliberation and rational dialogue forces minority students to accept irrational arguments made by racist hate speech, denies mutual recognition. This is off the DebateDrills evidence, Fish 97. Civilized conversation discouraged dear to liberals who believe the philosophical seminary, the differences we talk through the dialogue is not really open, the open successfully, which people will talk about it, but it means, of course, who decide in advance for truths to be heard, which will be dismissed, deeper, will only be infected by methods, and we even say liberalism sustained by active general ingenuity, intolerance, even repression. The rationality is always differential. You first when you read the rational between opposite rationalities. New speech is rational, and the Jonas problem must be rethought. What takes me to see is the enemy. Speech codes no longer have debate along learned terms anymore. Free speech cuts both ways. Racist student groups are coming, and they want their free speech back. Haynes 15. The National Youth Front, Youth White, the White Nationalist American Party is growing in the number of race organizations, starting youth on college campuses, youth first civilization, the traditionalist youth, and work kept on AB, communist extremism, neither are served as the drug coupling to well-established hate groups. The anti-YF does at the end. The goal of recruitment is to make nationalists racially conscious. Our goal is to take power from those who weaponize our institutions against us to put an end to the invasion of nations, and also outweighs your arguments about strengthening pro-minority groups, because the trade-off is that minority groups will face actual violence from speaking out against us. Jewish students will not want to leave the dorms for fear of getting beat up by Nazis holding rallies on campus, which means that comparatively their movements are strengthened larger and go to the underview. Off the code evidence, you say we are vague alternative. Obviously not the affirmative makes a specific demand on the system, ergo affirmative action withdrawing from the Middle East and having better education reform. We are not just simply completely vague, and the Hobbes evidence is pretty bad. Just the specific injustices are key, but we're not making a totalizing root cause claim, rather saying that you're actively recreates oppression by taking an incorrect methodology. Also just a general overview to the affirmative case. He assumes that racism can actually be redirected by simply having open dialogue or speaking. This is obviously another huge link to the K. No racist is going to give a shit about what black people have to say.
Okay, can you send me, or just delete what you didn't read? You didn't read Delgado, and you marked the first quote on there. Okay, ready for cross-sex?
Yeah, I am.
Status of the alt.
Unconditional.
Unconditional, can it result in the F, like floating
It
text?
cannot.
Great, okay. Let's discuss the critique. Name a single speech code that has ever been effective.
What do you mean? So a few arguments.
self-explanatory.
First of all,
No,
speech codes are currently effective right now. So
Name a single one. You've
yeah,
conceded
so-
that in Michigan codes were only enforced against black people. Name a single code that's actually been effective.
Yeah, so the dissad contextualizes this well. The Kincaid evidence talks about Title IX being really
Okay,
effective.
that doesn't sound like,
stop
name a
sexual
specific
harassment on
school
campus.
and speech code that was effective.
No, Title IX is effectively regulates as a speech code.
Name
the
specific,
overturn
okay,
Title IX.
I'm discussing the K.
Rather would stop
Wait,
Title
hold
IX
on,
from being enforced.
Connor, I'm discussing the K, not the dissad. Can you name specific speech codes that were not primarily enforced against minorities?
I'm sorry, what?
Can you name speech codes that were not primarily enforced against minorities?
Title IX was not primarily enforced against minorities.
Okay, let's talk about Title IX, actually. The dissad, you say the Bricker 12 evidence doesn't hold schools accountable. It just, can you give an example of when these complaints actually were successful or acted upon? This just says there were complaints. Where do you show the complaints were
classifying crimes of discrimination turned out to be an effective way to hold institutions accountable. They definitely were able to stop professors and students from acting.
This just says it turned out to be effective. Do you have any empirics that established it actually did that?
That isn't empiric.
No, it just says it turned out to be. Where do you show that? This just makes them.
It turned out, following the litigation of Title IX, it turned out to be effective in stopping
that's fine.
misogyny on
That's
campuses.
fine. The critique alternative to embrace the demand of abolitionism, does this mean like abolishing colleges? Like, what do we do for this alt?
No, so there are a few like academic demands on colleges. So things like affirmative action, like anything that would make higher education more like less like racist. So allowing more minority students.
But why does this require speech? Why does this require speech codes?
No, those are all the reasons why, those are all the reasons why speech codes would hamper minority movements. Those are the links to the K.
No, I agree speech codes would hamper minority movements. That's what I don't understand why the alt, I just don't understand.
I guess you negate that.
Wait, no, that doesn't make any sense. I don't understand why abolitionism is incompatible with having free speech on campus.
No, so so a few things. First of all, the link isn't like free speech bad generally. The link is to how the app uses free speech, especially contextualizing it as like a catch-all solution.
How does the app frame as a catch-all
solution?
How does the app say it's a catch-all solution?
The DebateDrills evidence coupled with like the Putzer evidence and a few stuff in the app literally says, oh, we can change racist minds by having an open dialogue about race.
The thesis.
Aside from that,
wait,
I think that's not the only
Connor, hold on. the thesis of the app was that speech codes are primarily enforced against minorities. We have an obligation.
I don't know if that's the thesis of the app.
I think I know the thesis of the app, and it is that. So why does this mean we should try to convince the racists, or like why? What do you show the EC frames it as convincing the racists? Like your link assumes.
Okay, like we can once again, like literally call for the cards. I am confident that in the tags of the cards, as well as in the warrants of the card.
Okay.
So first,
I'm glad
I think
that
we're
you're
limiting
confident.
this to like a single link, by the way. But that is not the only link that you want to have like some sort of open,
Sure,
even
that's
dialogue
that's
with
fine.
racist people.
I'll start.
It's also that the act of free
Are we
speech
doing?
itself.
Are we doing 5 or 4?
5.
Sure. Okay. 107. The order is the case with the case overview, then the roll the ballot debate, the framing at the top, then straight down the 1AC, his case arguments, critique, and dissent.
One more time, Raffi. Sorry.
Sure. It'll be a case overview. You should float at the very top. Then the framework, like the roll the ballot. Then straight down the 1AC. Then his case arguments, the K, and dissent.
Cool.
Okay, same doc as before, third doc. Okay, let me know you have it.
It's the 1 ACHW round robin quarters?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, is everyone else good? Okay. Speech codes enforced against minorities and status are causing massive oppression. The Yaps way fighting this back as nobody the case outweighs their offense first controls the uniqueness frame. The alt-rights mobilize the status quo. Trump was just elected, which shows things are as bad as they can possibly get. So is Schreier. I think like hate speech are inevitable in the world of the one and only the AC solves by enabling open dialogue with solves, which was Carl, which shows that free speech is key to fighting back the alt-right. Second, the case outweighs and probability speech codes are never effective. Yes, they have good intentions, but nothing actually changes. The ACLU proves that Michigan only forces against black people, not the line by line. Extend the role of outdoors federal liberation strategy for the oppressed. They say I'm a top-down action. Obviously not, though. It is a negative state action. As you do, you take away the state's control by cutting back on speech because people themselves can embrace liberation. The alt does not link to the role about because they don't actually offer liberation. They offer a runaway strategy. They only abolish. They don't actually change the actual system now. The F proper. Extend part 2 with ACLU speech codes enforced against minorities. Michigan codes prove that they're not qualified. In fact, they're only enforced against certain groups. In 20 cases, black students were oppressed, which caused further oppression. Now, the solvency, the 1AC proper, the solvency, the 1AC proper, extend at the very bottom, positive the AC laws or overall social movements better solve for oppression. Civil rights, for example, proves that overall change, which linked turn decay proves that only any activism presupposes the starting point of the 1AC. Now, the unreview extend cone evidence, which was grossly mishandled by the 2NR materiality at ways we have to do with reality. The reason blacks are oppressed is not because of our orientation, rather because of concrete conditions. They say the alt's demand upon the system. Clearly, it's not. It's a question of empirical solvency, though. Speech codes are never effective. They only force against minorities, which interacts with links to the K. Now, their case arguments. They say their first argument was Carpenter, but why people can't speak out, and we shouldn't fight speech with bad speech. They're being silenced in the status quo. Minorities never actually speak out right now, which means that it is charged after the 1AC. Otherwise, there is no shot of people actually fighting back. Their second response was fish about why it assumes rational viewpoints. No, the 1AC is not the views are legitimate. Rather, it is a way of combating those. Leonard proves that the only way to actually fight a racist speech is to hear it directly and realize how bad it is. That's from that stance. Their third response was Hughes about why racists are coming now. This is happening in the status quo. You misunderstand uniqueness, Connor. It's already occurring. Okay. The framing at the very bottom is a question of policy making and the passage of the plan, ignoring consequences causing further racial oppression. Ratio 6. Reduce conversation rates, ideological contemplate opponents in light of inquiry by, or make policy desirable instead. Framing your ideological opponents will avoid issues of actual outcomes, meaningful policy debates, ideological engagement, which deepens resentment. Now the links to the K proper for first is no link, the opposite negative state action. It cuts back on the harms they discuss. There is no positive action being taken, which means the opposite you to you approach. People can actually fight oppression themselves, which is overall better. Second term speech goes defined by weight elites and never include minorities. Their enforcement is always majoritarian. Glazer, House speech defined two sides, both styles, black students, their hatred spans, side is white, coast black students, whatever, 60s, victim would read Malcolm X and said speech cans were like poison gas, they shift and go back on us. Now, the alternative proper first permutation, do the mindset of the alt and the policy to 1AC. They all say we should acknowledge speech codes are a good idea, even if the intention itself is good. Their enforcement is always anti-black, which is the empirical evidence of the 1AC, the permits net beneficial. It ensures we solve the issues that occur. Second permutation, do the alternative. They say grassroots movements are key. That is impossible. World War speech codes shut down discussion. All they want to say is movements presuppose you can actually speak out, which is literally impossible in the world of the 1C. Third, the alt solves nothing. They only reject the entire system. People facing oppression right now don't want abolitionism. They want their actual conditions made better, which the 1AC overall establishes. The dissad. First, Title IX is not enforced the status quo. Thomas 11. 1978, a USC accused 9 female students fair chance. There is a federal agency investigation. Has not completed inquiry inside federal law under Title IX. Has to be progress schools. Failed by the law itself. They have no empirical evidence for the Title IX never actually enforced in the first place. Second, funding is there is a second no link uniqueness. People can file suits in the status quo. The act only cuts back in speech codes. There is no reason as to why people can't file suits under Title IX absent the 1AC. Third, this link to the AC. This is literally just a white backlash. People take away funding itself, but the app is still able to solve for oppression and minorities right now, which means the case that weighs the dissent. I'll delete what I did for you. Okay. It's U5, right?
Yeah.
Did we ever figure out where the coffee was?
No.
So there's not a coffee shop in that town.
So there is.
Where is it?
You can walk down the hall and then across the like sort of open area. There's a Starbucks like all the way down to the lobby, like where the bar is essentially.
Oh, by the way, I accept the notes. Oh yeah.
I'll eat like a whole puff right now. Or sugar. I don't know. I just take it right now.
I'm exhausted. Since the last round, I was paying attention when my eyes were glassing over. It was just like a full debate. It was just like meeting in person. It was just listening and like processing. I can tell you, I don't want to take any sleep. Staying up way too late and getting up way too early.
So y'all turn from old ladies to bad and bougie.
Overnight, yeah.
The glow up was real.
What's the order? Order's going to be dissad, K, affirmative.
Okay. Do I need the dissent sheet?
Yeah.
No, okay.
Sorry, I had my headphones in when you said that. What?
Disadd K affirmative.
Cool.
So like quickly after this.
Okay. Are you reading anything new?
Yeah, I'll back you the card. I mean, it's one card. Do you want me to?
If you don't mind, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
And on the app, I got a lot of different pieces of paper. Where are you planning on starting?
I'll start in the overview, and then
Wait, who's overview? Here's
your overview.
Oh, my overview?
Yeah, I'm gonna start on the app overview. Okay.
I don't know the name of the
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. What's it called, by the way?
It should be NR or HWRR NR
Okay.
orders or something.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
No, there's a song. So Rutgers is their affirmative has this song, and then at the top, and it's stuck in my head. And Nicole starts like they love to eat bump.
That's so good.
And Nicole starts spitting poetry on top of it, which is what's stuck in my head.
Yes, good.
Rutgers and Madison will want to be when they grow up.
Everybody good?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. On the diss side, I will concede title line is not enforced. That just means there's no offense for this flow. But in the case specifically, now overview the decay, you're getting fleeced on the link story. If there's any reason why we're reading the links, there's a reason why the perm never flows through. They all just going to resolve most of the affirmative case anyway. So it just means the try or die flows for the negative. If the affirmative isn't working currently, or strategies from the app aren't working, it means we need the alt to resolve it. Now go to the lava line first of all. First on the links debate, the first argument you have is that you were negative state action. Basically, this is not what the link story is about. It's not only about state action, rather the way in which you use free speech, but you are not even state action. You are a specific top-down approach that starts from public institutions passing a plan. Additionally, the off the Glazer evidence, the laws will be used against minorities is empirically denied and prevents reform. Degado New 94. A second paternalistic argument is the not going to fix speech laws to hurt minorities because the new rules will be applied against them. The empirical evidence is not just that this pattern police and FBI reports hate crimes are committed more frequently by whites against blacks and reverse hate. Compatible the NIAFAP confirmed the large number of black minorities are victimized by racist attacks on campus teacher distribution of enforcement seems to be consistent with Commission to Defense Minority Groups. Prosecution seems random. Reverse enforcement seems to have little validity in the U.S. Likelihood of officials in the U.S. would turn hate speech laws into weapons against minorities seems remote. Your Glazer evidence definitely does not get you out of the links. Additionally, the link specifically is still Godwin's Symphonic 92. Free speech is just an illusion. Structural barriers like libel laws in the U.S. make it impossible to criticize wealthy or powerful individuals, even with First Amendment protections. This leads to a contributing factor in minorities not being able to utilize free speech, and society is constructed as to block application of free speech. So just having more free speech creates a ruse of solvency. The act doesn't actually ever solve or change material conditions because free speech can never be applied effectively. Next, example Godwin U 94 that talking back into the aggressor doesn't work if they don't give a shit about what you have to say. Additionally, minorities have to work 10 times as hard to be recognized in public spaces are constantly questioned and heckled, but whites are able to speak freely means there is a clear trade-off of the ability for application of free speech and extend Godwin Symphonic 09 that hate speech becomes internalized by minorities. This leads to massive psychological violence and disempowers movements. All the weighing under this was completely conceded. This directly disempowers any movement against racism. For example, once again, there's also a physical danger of minorities being able to speak freely. For example, Nazis are free to hold rallies on campus, but Jewish students are trapped in dorms because they fear assault from these Nazi students holding rallies. Now, this means that there's definitely a large link turn to the affirmative solvency. There is a huge trade-off between white people using free speech for their racist movements and minorities using free speech against them. Additionally, it just means that minorities will constantly be disempowered. That is a cyclicality argument you are conceding. Now, if you embrace the evidence, you say policy focus is key, but no, you're conceding the Lopez 03 argument. That specific policy focus things like the AF plan are completely inaccessible to minority groups because they are forced to role play or utilize the state. Additionally, we are not some sort of ideal theory. you have conceded that the alt is not vague. It is a list of demands. Next, of the perms, there is no reason. Every link you are conceding is a disadd to the perms. You say there is literally no warrant why the perm wouldn't solve. The alt changes ideology initially, and then offers a list of demands. We overturn not only the mindset of people in the affirmative world, but also have a specific way in which we can make colleges or institutions more free by overturning, by strengthening the affirmative action and overturning preference for minority students. Also having some sort of demands for prison abolishment. The alt is very large in the list of demands. We would definitely solve for racism inherent in the app world. The only other response to this is the perm double bind, but this is once again incoherent. If you're losing links to the K, go to the app. Starting on the app's overview, you say the case outweighs because this is offense for you, and Trump is already elected. The problem is you are completely mishandling the Hanks 15 evidence. The Hanks 15 evidence is that racist student groups are coming, but they can utilize freedom of speech incredibly well. They want free speech to be passed, so they can magnify their movements and get to more college students and amplify the strength of racist groups. And in the U.S. right now, it just becomes tried after the affirmative because all the uses of free speech on college campuses simply haven't worked. You think that no person on a college campus in the U.S. has ever tried to use free speech to convince a racist that they're wrong? Obviously, that has happened. The problem is that it's not working. Trump has already been elected, so the point is we need some sort of alternative. Next is the, you say free speech is key to fighting the alt-right. You've conceded the top-down arguments, or the broader arguments we are making to the app that you just link into the K even more, because there's literally no way in which a racist person could be convinced that they should not be racist, or a KK member could be convinced that they are not being racist just from open dialogue. You can look at the DebateDrills or the Purzer cards. This is literally one of the theses of the app, that open dialogue is key to changing people's minds about racism, but obviously this is not going to be happening. This is just an echo chamber that liberals decide racism is bad on college campuses, but nothing actually ever changes. It just means that free speech is better for racist groups because they have the opportunity to convince more people that racism is good. You see the ACLU evidence that speech codes will be held against blacks. Obviously, the evidence we read on the K would disprove the speech codes used against blacks. Additionally, there's no examples you can offer except for this single Michigan example about a certain instance when a black student was forced to write some letter to the editor about being racist, but that does not prove, even if he is right that some speech codes are used against blacks, he has not proven solvency for why these would destroy minority movements entirely. Rather, it would just make a single black person pissed off because they had to be slightly humiliated in public. So even if you were granting him this argument, it still is completely outweighed by the fact that psychological violence dooms minority movements by creating cyclical and internalized hatred of themselves, which is definitely outweighs them just being embarrassed a little bit. Next, you say these speech codes are not effective in the civil rights to prove some sort of change. Once again, these speech codes are all we have left. It is obvious that free speech alone is not effective. We need some sort of coupled change. Additionally, these speech codes definitely can stop some sort of harassment. There are areas and campuses that are definitely free spaces. It's not as if the every liberal college in the U.S. has completely been overrun by racists. I think you are magnifying impacts a little bit, but additionally, go to the Carpenter evidence. The problem is, once again, the Carpenter evidence is mishandled, that fighting free speech with speech obscures material violence because students are not actually able to apply free speech freely. White fragility just overlooks minority speech, and the Fish 97 evidence is really good here. It says that simply having more deliberation and rational dialogue forces minorities to accept racist viewpoints. It means that the dialogue is not really open. It's just the ruse of open dialogue that the app creates, where black people constantly have to listen to people justifying why it's good to call them the N-word, and whenever they try and speak back, either their arguments and opinions are ignored, or they're just talked over, which means that the Cohen stuff you read about people being talked over is not a reason why you should do the app, but rather a reason why the neg is just trying to die.
I have a 107.
Okay, cool. The order is the cone evidence in the underview, then the case overview at the top of the 1AR, and I'll signpost from there. Is everyone ready?
No, sorry. Cone, top, where?
Cone, then top of the app on the case overview, and then straight down extensions, his, turns, and the K.
Yeah.
Ready? The tutor does an awful lot of grandstanding. The problem is he's not responding to framing issues out of the AC. That's why material violence comes first. The question is surrounded not whether speech codes have good intentions, rather what they actually do. He's conceded evidence about why they're only enforced against minorities, which shows that the app's a pragmatic strategy to get rid of the speech codes. So extend co-materiality ways themselves in real life conditions. Black people are not oppressed because of ideology, rather because of concrete conditions. His argument here is very flippant. He just says the alt material. It's a question of link to the K, though even if speech codes are sound good in a vacuum, they're only enforced against minorities, which means the app's a pragmatic strategy of getting rid of these speech codes and solving oppression now, the top of the app. It's in the second part of the case summary, the case that weighs on probability, which has been cold dropped out of the two and are the impacts occur on a day-to-day basis. Where does impacts are hypothetical? Couldn't give a single example in cross-ex. All the PHO that ever works for a side show the AC is overall good at D, so it's try or die for the 1AC, now the F proper. Extend ACLU, which has been undercovered in all 5 speeches. Michigan speech codes prove that are only enforced against minorities. 20 black students, for example, were forced to write letters of apology. He says the 2 and R evidence takes this out. One, this was new in the 2. You can't just read evidence because you forgot to answer it in the 1 and C. This has been conceded out of the 1AC. They can't answer it here. Second, this doesn't answer back, considers Michigan, and also considers Great Britain, which shows that there was massive backlash against neo-Nazi groups, which also answers back their psychological violence impact. Speech codes are never enforced against white race, only against minorities, which means hate speech will go unpunished. These were only ones who punished are the minority students instead, which is the worst possible impact, and its overall key. The question in this round is not whether or not his intention is good, rather it's a question of who's actually punished. Only minorities are punished in his world, so it's bad. Okay. The link at the very top, I'm going for the Glazer term because it was grossly mishandled. Go back to the case turns. Heats in the first string, Carpenter, Freddy's speech is bad, but it's in my response. There's silence in the status quo, there's no possibility for movements. When people literally can't speak out right now because they're only silenced by speech codes. He also skins fish, but it's in my response. That people stand better by considering ideas. If ideas are so race, we should discuss them openly. Otherwise, we see how bad the ideas really are themselves. He also extends, Hamper and says that the alt-right's mobilized right now, but it's my response. Uniqueness flows my way. The reason why the impacts occur is because of speech codes on campuses. Either way, though, these are not empirically verified arguments for a slash speech codes are only for minorities, so ACLU slays this now. Okay. It's my second response, Glaze, which is mishandled. Speech codes are controlled by white elites themselves, who enforce against minorities. He reads, tell God when units empirically denied. First, he has no examples. This says that it might not be enforced. However, all the empirics out of the 1AC prove this is false. Second, that doesn't respond, even not enforced against minorities. They are still controlled by white elites themselves, who can use it in certain ways, which also answers back the psychological violence impact. Now, the alt. You answered the wrong permutation, Connor. It was perm, do the alternative. It's in the second response. Perm, do the alt. The alt is the same thing as the 1AC. I am a grassroots strategy. People can literally not speak out in the status quo because all the speech codes in campus stifling them. The perm shield their links about psychological violence. Speech codes are only enforced in blacks right now, so the app's overall keeps in third responsible. The solvency deficit, which was dropped. Abolition themselves, something people are still oppressed right now. They can't wait for your solution, so it's try or die for the app because codes are enforced. So either way, speech codes are only enforced against minorities. The app gets rid of those, so it's good. Debate round.